Hello and welcome to News9 Live. I'm Aditya Kaul and you're watching In India's Interest. Has it ever happened that you reach out to the Supreme Court for justice and the Supreme Court rejects your appeal, saying you are late? Yes, that's right. You are late to seek justice in a country where there are 5 crore pending cases in courts across India, with 69,000 pending in Supreme Court of India alone. And mind you, the oldest case pending before the Constitution bench of the Supreme Court is 31 years old. Viewers, Kashmiri Pandit community in India has been seeking justice for the last 34 years. On 3 different occasions, 3 different Chief Justices of India have rejected their petition to seek a commission of inquiry for reasons behind the 1990 exodus and ethnic cleansing. Over 5 lakh Kashmiri Hindus were forced to leave their homeland under gunpoint since 1990. Not a single one of them has been able to return. Their houses have been burnt to ashes, temples desecrated, and even today, they continue to be killed by the same Islamist terrorists in the Kashmir Valley. They had only one crime. They call themselves Indians first and represent the minuscule minority of Kashmiri Hindus in the valley. Successive Indian governments have denied them justice. And not just successive governments, it's also now the successive Supreme Court judges who have denied them any hope or a glimmer of hope for justice. Kashmiri Hindus have only demanded 2 things: commission of inquiry for reasons behind the exodus and ethnic cleansing, and death sentence to terrorists of the JKLF, Yasin, Malik and Bitta karate. Viewers, this brings us to the questions that we are asking in India's interest today. What will wake up the Supreme Court to deliver justice to the hapless community of Kashmiri Hindus? If trial of cases in the 1984 Sikh carnage can continue for 40 years, why can't the Indian courts discuss and deliver justice, and instead are now denying the right to justice to the Kashmiri Hindus? And finally, why haven't successive governments been able to hang terrorist Yasin Malik for his terror crimes against humanity, against Kashmiri Pandits, and of course against the Indian Air Force personnel who were killed by Yasin Malik? And joining us on the debate are 3 important people. We will be joined in due course by Ashutosh Taploo, who is a KP Exodus survivor, Rajinder Premi, who is also a KP Exodus survivor. But first, let me go across to Amit Raina, Kashmiri Pandit activist, who is joining us and who was also the petitioner in these cases in the Supreme Court of India. Amit, you have been witnessing for the last 2 days the hearings that have happened in the Supreme Court on Article 370. Once you hear these hearings that happen merely 4 years after the abrogation of 370, what goes through your mind? Because your petition, your community's appeal for justice has completely been rejected, completely been denied.
Interesting question, Aditya. Given that the organization I represent, Roots in Kashmir, has also filed an IA in the 370 case. It was part of implement earlier also, along with Charuvali Khanna on 35A. Me and our team members and the lawyers had a discussion on what submissions should we file before the Supreme Court. And it was largely agreed that we should avoid the route of genocide. See, Article 370 was largely responsible for the genocide and ethnic cleansing of Kashmiri Pandit. It was also responsible for the lack convictions and the fast tracking of the cases. It has a zero delivery. It has been a zero delivery of justice till now, no conviction in any Kashmiri Pandit. So 370 was largely responsible for it. But we agreed that given the stand of Supreme Court on the genocide of Kashmiri Pandits, on the killings and justice towards Kashmiri Pandits, let us not mention the same in our submissions and maintain our submissions purely on the legal and technical ground. Although the genocide of a community in independent India should be one of the biggest reasons for a law to go, because if it is enabling ethnic cleansing, if it is enabling and destruction of an entire community, it should be the basic and the first reason of for the law to go. But given the reasons, given the track record of Supreme Court on Kashmiri Pandit justice cases, we decided to avoid it. So it was a very sad feeling sitting yesterday sitting there and listening to Kapil Sibal giving a monologue on the history of Jammu and Kashmir with the documents which were covering letters and presenting them as agreements, and not a word was mentioned about how 370 led to a genocide. So there has been a feeling of hurt because ultimately it's the final court of justice where you approach, and the way Supreme Court has avoided mentioning or taking up Kashmiri Pandit cases is somewhere is very disheartening and sometimes worrying also.
It is disheartening and worrying. That is what Amit Raina, Kashmiri Pandit activist, is saying on the Supreme Court denying the right to justice to the Kashmiri Hindus. We are also joined by Ashutosh Taploo. In fact, for the background, for viewers who are watching us, Ashutosh Taploo's father was a prominent political activist, a very well-known figure in the Kashmir Valley, Tekilal Taploo, who was one of the first Kashmiri Pandits to be brutally killed and assassinated on 14th of September 1989. And his family and the community has been waging a fight for justice for these 34 years. Ashutosh ji, thank you so much for joining us today on this show. I want to begin by asking you, you also tried to approach the Supreme Court of India for justice. But why did the Supreme Court completely deny this justice? On several occasions, you have tried to approach different courts, but there's been no justice at all. In your father's case also, have you seen any kind of justice, any kind of perpetrators of JKLF being tried or convicted? आशुतोष जी, अनम्यूट योरसेल्फ, आप म्यूट पे हैं.
I'm on mute.
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay, now. Aditya, you see, this is very unfortunate, not for me, my personally, and my father's killing, for whole community. You see, I approached Supreme Court simply because we don't have I don't have the FIR of the killings of my father. I don't have the death certificate of my father. This is very unfortunate. Tigalal Taploo, who was the tallest leader of the Kashmiri Pandit and the national executive member of the BJP. Now, for last 9 years, BJP is in the central government. I am asking all the leaders, whomsoever I am able to meet, asking them then please arrange a FIR copy or please give me the death certificate. I need death certificate of my father. When I approached Supreme Court with all these things that my father was killed, along with my father, a lot of Kashmiri Pandits were killed. We want justice. Sudhanshu Trivedi and I think this Gaurav Bhatia was fighting for that. Gaurav Bhatia, when he spoke to this, he asked the Supreme Court that our case should be listened. But he gave the example that a lot of other organizations have already approached us in the Supreme Court for the justice of this killings, but they have not accepted it. So on the same reason, but one thing they told me, they told the Gaurav Bhatia, look, Ashutosh can write a letter to the government of India and asking them to intervene in all these matters. But only one thing which Supreme Court kept in my opening, he gave me a chance that in case the government of India will not listen to you, you can again come back to the Supreme Court, then and that time we'll listen all these things. Adit, this is very unfortunate, whatever has happened to the Kashmiri Pandit, and no government is bothered about listening us properly. No one is interested in meeting us. No one is interested in approaching our leaders. No one is asking us what you want. This is very unfortunate, Adit.
This is very unfortunate, but Ashutosh ji made a very interesting point, Amit. He said that, for the last 9 years, there's BJP government in power. For almost 4 to 5 years, there's governor's rule in Jammu and Kashmir. Then what stops the BJP government? What stops Narendra Modi or Amit Shah from holding or in fact initiating a commission of inquiry? Because they can do abrogation of 370, they can ban JKLF and Jamaat-e-Islami, they can arrest Yasin, Malik, Bitta, Karate, Asya Andrabi, Shabir Shah and others. Then what stops them from doing something for the Hindus that they talk about?
There's a song in Hindi which says, "Gungru ki tarah bajta hi raha hu main, kabhi is pag mein, kabhi us pag mein banta hi raha hu." And that's exactly what has happened to Kashmiri Pandit. You go to judiciary, they tell you go to executive. Judiciary doesn't recognize that fact that for 27 years, Kashmiri Pandits have continuously met everyone in legislature as well as in executive, and there have been constant promises, undelivered promises on yes, cases will be open, SIT will be formed, we will take care of things. Judiciary doesn't appreciate that. You go to executive now and they say, so you go back to the judiciary. So the community has become a football, and no one wants to take the responsibility. What is the reason for Supreme Court not to take up cases? See, what is insulting is that when they rejected Roots in Kashmir petition to reopen the cases, to form an SIT, there was nothing, a demand which was being asked, which was unusual, exceptional. All we said was that please form an SIT in case. And then when the court said, Honorable Justice Keher said that it is difficult to get evidences and proofs. So we said that it is not for the court to decide. If that's the case, let the prosecution and the investigating agency say so, and please then close the hundreds of cases which are lying open for last 34 years. At least give a sense of closure to the people and to the community. That also did not happen. And what is more disturbing and what is rubbing salt to the wounds is that if after dismissing your petition, saying 27 years is too late to open cases of a magnitude of genocide, the same Supreme Court, the same bench, goes and opens the 84 Sikh rights. I'm not saying that they should have not opened it. Yes, it was a welcome step, but 84 and 96. So you had a case which was 33 years old, you went and opened that. They subsequently go and open Netaji Subhash Chandra's disappearance case, which was 75-year-old, which happened in a country called then Formosa and today is Taiwan. And they go and reopen that case. They even go and reopen the case whether a second bullet was fired on Mahatma Gandhi. But they were not willing to open cases which were 27-year-old, where you had witnesses alive, where you had the killers alive, where even you had the investigation officers alive, and there was ample evidence both in terms of media reports, in terms of eyewitnesses available. So I honestly don't know, is it because Hindu life in this country does not matter? You can immediately wake up and say, did Manipur approach to you? You took a so moto cognizance. You took a so moto cognizance in Gujarat. You took a so moto cognizance in many other things. But for 32 years, you have refused to take so moto cognizance in Kashmir. And same is for the executive. Now it is for the BJP to answer that while we can blame judiciary, executive has the right to form an SIT. There is nothing which stops executive from forming a tribunal to find out the reasons of exodus. Because of today, you are saying that Kashmiri Pandits need to be settled back into the valley. You will have to address the root causes.
Right.
Is it probably because BJP in Jammu and Kashmir wants to cater again to appeasement politics because they have tie-ups with people who had hardcore terrorist links or were hardcore terrorists themselves, like Sajjad Lone, like Bukhari? Do you have partners today whom you are willing to bet on so that you may get a seat in Kashmir and then you can tell to the world, look, we are a secular national
Not just
party.
that, Amit, I'll tell you, 30 years after the killing of Mirwais Umar Farooq, the killers of Mirwais have been arrested by the Jammu and Kashmir police. And in my conversations, and I'm sure in your conversations with J&K police, the policemen at the SSP rank, at the DIG rank, at the IG rank say that if it is given to us, we will investigate it. We will bring the perpetrators to justice. Then why is the government not doing it? And I want to ask you, Amit, particularly on the Yasin Malik case, if Mirwais's killers after 30 years can be arrested, why can't Yasin Malik be arrested in the case of the killing of Kashmiri Pandits? In fact, not just Kashmiri Pandits, the Indian Air Force case has been pending for 34 years.
Few years back, we filed an RTI with Indian Air Force. This is before abrogation of Article 370. Air Force told us we have no clue on what is the status of the case. This was a case of their 4 Air Force officers being killed. The same was transferred then to CBI. The interesting fact is that CBI Srinagar sent me a reply saying state of Jammu and Kashmir is covered under Article 370 and we are not, and the RTI does not apply to them. It was only after we created Hangama saying that you are a central body, you are not a state government body, you have to reply. Then they came back with standard cases under investigation, we cannot disclose information. Even today, if we go by the Supreme Court judgment on the Roots in Kashmir petition, the order, I won't say the judgment, the order, by that order, Yasin Malik cannot be prosecuted today because 27-year-old case, 32-year-old case of Air Force officer killing, Supreme Court has gone and said it is not possible to produce evidence. Now, Supreme Court itself has gone on contradiction. World over, they tell you the crime never dies. But the Supreme Court order, if I was the lawyer of Yasin Malik, I would happily misuse that order to protect my client. Now, why this is happening, I honestly don't know. I personally believe that BJP today has agendas in Jammu and Kashmir, especially winning seats in Kashmir Valley, so they want to appease certain section of people. Otherwise, Air Force officer killing, Neelkant Ganju, a judge killing, doesn't bother you. Lassa Kaul at sitting director Radio Kashmir doesn't bother you. Rape of Girja Tikku, rape of Sarla, but doesn't bother you. I don't know what makes the consciousness of this society and this government if such heinous crimes do not. So there has to be a reason. I honestly have not been able to fathom what is the reason that a nationalist party like BJP has been dilly-dallying on conviction and prosecution of heinous crimes which have happened against the soldiers of this country, against the citizens of this country.
You make a fair point, Amit. Let me get in Ashutosh Taploo again. Ashutosh, I remember Dr. S. Jaishankar, the Foreign Minister of India, visited your house recently. You know, BJP is always there when they want to visit you, when they want to use you or, have you at the party platform. But why not deliver justice? You know, your father was a Karyakarta, was a leader of the party.
Yeah. Exactly, Aditya. When he came surprisingly, he gave visit to my house. I welcome him. I asked him one simple thing. You are here to tell me that we remember Tikalal Taploo. We have not forgotten his sacrifices. We remember all the Kashmiri Pandit community, what has happened to the Kashmiri Pandit. I asked him one thing. Manaka, you know everything about, okay, it is fine. You know about Tikalal Taploo sacrifice. You have come here to tell me and remembered me that, and he told me that, look, BJP has not forgotten the sacrifice, not only given by your father, but all other Kashmiri Pandits. I told him, this is just a verbal thing you are telling me. Nothing has been done from your end. The same question I asked him. 8 years is your Narendra Modi ji for last 8-9 years as a Prime Minister, and before that, Atal Bihari Vajpayee was the Prime Minister for 5-6 years. So no, nothing has been done by the party. Okay, then he replied me. He told me, look, we are trying to settle down the basic things like Article 370 is removed. Yasin Malik is arrested, and they are trying to eliminate the all other militants also. So this will take time, but now the time has come. So I told him, at least your people, BJP is not willing to meet Kashmiri Pandits. At least give something they can convey to the community leaders. Look, we are doing on this job. It is taking time, but you just don't think that we are not going to do anything. But nothing has been communicated to our leaders. Our leader, when Utpal Kolji has met the Home Minister, we have a GKPD, Global Kashmiri Pandit Diaspora forum where all over the world, whole Kashmiri Pandit is trying to bring everyone on the one common platform. They didn't even listen to them. They tried many times to go and meet Home Minister, and this only thing is just like I told you that Amit, I agree with Amit. They are taking our memorandum and throwing it into the dustbin. This is why I communicated very clearly to the S. Jaishankar. S. Jaishankar promised me that I am going to seriously discuss with my colleagues, Modi ji and Amit Shah ji, but still I am waiting for that reply. Nothing has been done so far.
Nothing has been done by the government of India, by the BJP government, who has been tom-tomming in their manifesto that they will deliver justice to the Kashmiri Pandits after all these years. Viewers, let me leave you with this documentary, The Valley of Fear, where I speak to 3 victim families of the Kashmiri Pandit exodus. Sarvanand Kaul, Premi's family, the family of Tikalal Taploo and Lassa Kaul. All 3 prominent Kashmiri Pandits who were killed by the JKLF terrorists in Kashmir, including Yasin Malik. These are the pleas of the family members of the victims of one of the most brutal exodus and ethnic cleansing in history. Keep watching.
साल पहले लाखों कश्मीरी हिंदू तहस नहस कर दिए गए। हमारे भाई बहन, बूढ़े, बच्चे, मेरे अपने, मानो मेरे हाथ, पांव, बाजू, मेरा खून, ये हार्ड मांस का शरीर जैसे रातों रात जिहाद ने रौंद डाला।
This is a very sad story.
If you have a guts, fire on my chest.
They shot him point blank.
They had a plan of massacring the whole family.
I've got a letter, खून से लिखा हुआ था.
That Kashmiri Pandits, please leave your ladies and leave from the Kashmir Valley.
अरे यार, भगवान के लिए, खुदा के लिए इंसाफ तो करो. We were a lone Kashmiri Pandit family in an inhabitation of around 2 lakh Muslims. Many Hindu houses were looted, temples were desecrated in whole Anantnag district. So this was a great signal to the entire community, either flee or merge or be ready to be killed.
Yishuk kim khor naite arshas, kasun junun vot az kamalas. Vudau me yem zuni tam dutnam, gulag na posh tat khayalas.
This is a very sad story. On 24th or 25th of April 1990 was Choti Eid. And my father used to go from home to home to congratulate them. But this year he said the situation is not conducive to the extent that I'll go from home to home. He wrote a letter to the Citizens Council and invited him to his home over a cup of tea. And everybody responded. And came, had a cup of tea in our house. They stood up 3-4 people and said, Quran ki qasam, Muhammad ki qasam, we are here for your security. On 29th of April, 3 masked men, they crashed the door and forced their entry into our house. A boy, masked boy with a gun was put at the door so that nobody could enter and nobody could leave the house. I could immediately understand that they had a plan of massacring the whole family and took my younger brother and father away. और बाहर जा करके उन्होंने, I still remember कि उन्होंने, they must have fired in the air. In the air, मैं घबरा के I fell down. 3 दिन तक we had no clue where they were taken. And after 3 days came some police party of the J&K. Police said that आपने ये 3 दिनों में कुछ नहीं खाया है, कुछ नहीं पिया, आखिर कम से कम ये आप चाय वाय वगैरह पी लो. We have been able to retrieve them from an hideout. Other morning they came with this sad news that we could not retrieve them alive, but we have been able to retrieve their bodies. And they told me that bodies were found somewhere under a chinar tree, in a choke, and they were found and they were identified. तो अब आप ये
He showed me a letter written by the Qazi Nisar. Look, Tikalal Taploo, go back and leave this valley. Otherwise, you will be killed. 19 January 1909, lakhs of masjid, not only in Srinagar, all parts of the Kashmir Valley, east, west, south. At one time, the slogans were there that Kashmiri Pandits, please leave your ladies and girls here and leave from the Kashmir Valley.
Telol panay makol zonut, gara yemisbur, gahe humisbur.
So while he was moving out from the house, there was a small girl who was crying, a Muslim girl. So Tikalal asked her mother why she is crying. That mother told, look, they were very poor people. He said there is a drawing competition in her school. So she is asking a 5 rupee note for a drawing board or a drawing chart. So I am not having that money. So what Tikalal did, he took out the 5 rupee note from his pocket and handed over to that girl. And he started walking towards the court. There were 5 people who were hiding behind the car. The moment Tikal Taploo passed through that car, they fired from the behind. The moment they fired from the behind, Tikal Taploo just turned out and told them, "Look, Cairo, why are you firing from my back? If you have a guts, fire on my chest." They fired at air and they ran away. So that is how the Tikal Taploo was killed.
They were waiting for him outside the gate. He did not know, of course. When he was about to come out from his car, they shot him point blank. Like he was in front of his home, but he could not enter.
Ujar dil kya abad karhak, panun se dil daje, chuin halas.
Even now, when I reach home after office, I think that this was the time he was shot. Even now, I can't get over the thing that he must have thought, "Oh, ab to main ghar pahunch gaya," and then he could not enter. Couple of years ago, I came to know that he was taken to a hospital by the driver, which I don't know, and then nobody treated him. Somebody told me that he was not treated because they were scared. Okay, if we touch him, maybe we'll also be, in the hit list. He used to get threatening letters. A lot of them he used to get, but he was not like. He was kind of very brave, and he used to, fight for everybody. "I'm there, you need not worry." But he had this inkling that, he might be in the hit list, that he was, and he knew about it. But he did not actually believe that they'll actually come and shoot him, That was some belief, in fellow human beings, as we all have, that this is not going to happen to me because I've done so much for them. He always used to think like that. He used to teach us also. Once I remember there was this rumor that there was a bomb in his office. He was in Doordarshan at the time. He was the director. And he came out from his cabin and said, "Let me check it." Like people were, asking him not to come. But he said, "No, let me check. These are all my, people. So they should not bear the brunt." So he would always be the front man for everybody. Once he told us कि I've got a letter, खून से लिखा हुआ था. It was writing written in blood, and he said कि इसमें लिखा हुआ है that your family will be targeted and you will be targeted. And then he got a bit worried about us because he thought कि कुछ ना हो जाए, because I was also going to this college and my brother was also studying at the time, and he used to regularly go. So for our safety, and he told us to leave for Delhi. So he decided to stay put at Doordarshan Bhavan only. I think tourist center or kahin pe they used to stay. And unfortunately, that very day he decided to come and visit his parents who were there, because they did not come with us. They declined. They said, "No, this is our space. This is our place. We are not going to leave Kashmir." You know how they are, my grandparents. They did not budge anything. They said, "नहीं, हम तो यहीं रहेंगे. यहाँ कुछ नहीं होगा. ये तो हमारा अपना घर है." And he that day he came to meet them, and somebody, informed someone out there, and they were waiting for him outside the gate of our house. He did not know, of course, and when he was about to come out from his car, they were there and they shot him point blank. Like he was in front of his home, but he could not enter. That very moment, they shot him. So even now, when I reach home after office, I think that this was the time he was shot. Even now, I can't get over the thing that he must have thought, "Oh, ab to main ghar pahunch gaya," and then he could not enter.
Nazar thavus hana mokij hish, ki hur shusaran shok bulbul, natai se gwadsi hawal thothan, lagi beshunkis bichor zalas, siya sharaba se rot kaluk, libit thodzan sanyo karat, खुपूर किन नूर क्या छु नापान ये रस मारूम गमुस छु प्यालस।
आज तो कोई आयोग नहीं बैठा, कोई जांच नहीं हुई, कोई मुकदमा नहीं चला, कोई दोषी नहीं पाया गया, किसी को सजा नहीं हुई।
Justice, what justice Prime Minister or Supreme Court is waiting for Kashmiri Pandits?
Yes, I want to see those being punished.
अरे यार भगवान के लिए, खुदा के लिए इंसाफ तो करो।
Ivushtu kuta pyomut छु चालुन कोडुर सफर रात प्युत गुलालस अड़ेन छु हरदुक अमार साकई अड़ेन छु रातुक खुमार बाकई मगर ये सुबुक देवान नैदिम छु आज दिवानवान सोथ कालस।